Stephanie White just shut down every rumor, every whisper, and every ridiculous hot take claiming Caitlin Clark is on her way out of Indiana. In a league swirling with drama, tension, and nonstop speculation, White stepped up to the mic and made one thing crystal clear. Caitlin Clark isn't just staying with the Fever. She's the heartbeat of the team. And no, she's not joining the Las Vegas Aces. Not now. Not soon. Not ever. If Stephanie has anything to say about it.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
Forget the injury. Forget the clickbait headlines. While Clark's been sidelined, people have been spinning narratives about locker room issues, trade rumors, and chemistry concerns. But White, she didn't just deny the noise, she obliterated it. Her praise for Clark was raw, real, and honestly, kind of emotional. This wasn't the usual coach speak. It was a full-on endorsement of Caitlin as the leader, the culture setter, the future. White laid it out. Even while injured, Clark had been showing up early, staying late, breaking down film, and literally acting like a second coach on the bench. She's not just playing the game. She's learning how to lead it. That's not something you trade away. That's the kind of player you build dynasties around. And let's be honest, the Clark to the Aces rumors always felt more like fan fiction than fact. But they got traction because people underestimated her value in Indiana. That ends now. White's comments weren't just supportive, they were strategic. She's planting a flag and saying, "This is our franchise player," and she's not going anywhere. But it's more than loyalty. White didn't just say Clark is important. She explained why. It's not just her stats. It's her brain, her grit, her ability to elevate everyone around her. She's changed the Fever's identity, raised expectations, and brought the spotlight back to a team that's been ignored for years. And she's doing all that without playing a minute right now. That's the kind of leadership you can't buy. That's not media hype. It's impact. It's culture. And Stephanie White knows exactly what she has in Clark. Not just a star, but a once-in-a-generation leader. So while the league keeps shifting and the rumor mill keeps churning, the Fever are locking in. They're building a future, not just a team. And at the center of it all is Caitlin Clark, wiser, tougher, and more dangerous than ever. Indiana's not letting her go. And after that interview, they'd be crazy to even consider it. The moment Stephanie White sat down and addressed the growing rumors about Caitlin Clark, the tone in the room shifted. She wasn't dodging. She wasn't dancing around the question. She was ready. And what came out of her mouth wasn't spin. It was a statement. No, Caitlin Clark is not heading to the Las Vegas Aces. No, there's no trade on the table. No, the Fever aren't shopping her around. Because as far as Stephanie White is concerned, Caitlin Clark isn't just a player on the roster. She's a foundation of the Indiana Fever. The rumors have been picking up steam online. Whispers about Clark's fit with the team. Clickbait speculation about locker room tension. Wild theories that the Fever weren't using her right, and that a mega deal with the Aces was in the works. But Stephanie White shut it down with facts. And in doing so, she didn't just end a rumor. She reaffirmed Caitlin Clark's role as a cornerstone of the Fever's future. White didn't give the usual coach speak. She didn't hide behind vague answers or team-first platitudes. She spoke with clarity, and she spoke with purpose. Because she wasn't just defending a player, she was defending a vision. And that vision starts with Caitlin Clark. According to White, the idea that Clark is anything but essential to Indiana's future is not just wrong, it's laughable. Because even injured, Clark has been leading, guiding, studying, growing, not just as a shooter, but as a communicator, a strategist, a second coach on the bench. Stephanie White made it crystal clear. Clark's influence isn't defined by her scoring. It's defined by her presence. While sidelined, Clark has reportedly been one of the most vocal, engaged, and insightful people in the room. Not sulking, not coasting, leading, breaking down plays, supporting teammates, running film sessions, offering tactical insight that, according to White, goes well beyond her years. And that's the part that keeps getting missed in the noise. Yes, Caitlin Clark is marketable. Yes, She sells jerseys. Yes, she boosts ratings. But that's not why she matters to this team. She matters because she's building a culture. And Stephanie White sees it happening in real time. In the interview, White praised Clark's work ethic, calling it relentless. She described her mindset as perfectionist, her attitude as mature, and her influence as game-changing. According to White, Clark isn't waiting to become a leader. She already is one. That doesn't happen by accident. That doesn't happen because of hype. It happens because the player cares. And Clark cares. Every minute of her injury has been a masterclass in growth. And Stephanie White made sure people heard that. She went out of her way to address the critics. The ones who said Clark is just a shooter. The ones who questioned her impact during the losing streak. The ones who thought her injury was an excuse to push her aside. Stephanie White didn't mince words. Clark is central to everything they're building. And the subtext was loud. This was more than praise. This was strategy. White wasn't just supporting Clark. She was sending a message to fans, to analysts, to the entire league. Don't mistake injury for irrelevance. Don't mistake silence for absence. And don't mistake early struggles for long-term failure. Because Caitlin Clark is here to stay. In fact, according to White, Clark's injury has made her better. It's given her a different angle, a wider lens, a deeper understanding of the game. She's been watching, absorbing, dissecting, learning. And when she returns, she'll come back with more than just healed legs. She'll come back with vision. That's what separates stars from superstars. Clark isn't just coming back to play. She's coming back to lead. And White is building the entire system around that. She also shut down the rumor that there's tension between them. Directly. No tension, she said. Total respect. White described Clark as a player who asks the right questions, who listens, who gives feedback without ego, who shows up with intention, whether she's starting or sidelined. That kind of dynamic, that's not dysfunction. That's chemistry. And in a league where coach-player relationships can turn into political minefields, White and Clark seem to be in lockstep. So where did all the noise about a trade come from? The internet. And that's what this moment ultimately became, a coach using her platform to correct the narrative. Because while others have been focused on clicks and controversy, Stephanie White has been focused on building. She sees Clark as a generational player, a future face of the league, someone who doesn't just bring in fans, but sets a standard. And she's not afraid to say it. In fact, she wants people to hear it. Because every time a headline tries to reduce Clark to hype, White brings it back to reality, to the hours, the leadership, the film, the work ethic, the responsibility Clark has embraced. Even off the court, Clark's impact, according to White, is already being felt across the organization. The fever went from being ignored to relevant. Attendance is up. National coverage is constant. And that's not just because of marketing. It's because of Caitlin Clark. Her presence has transformed the franchise. And White sees where this is going. She sees the vision beyond the injury report. She sees championships. She sees dynasties. She sees a future where Caitlin Clark doesn't just play in the WNBA. She defines it. And the idea that they'd ever trade that away? Not a chance. This isn't about potential anymore. This is about trajectory. And Clark is on one. Her influence is growing. Her leadership is deepening. And Stephanie White made it absolutely clear. When Caitlin Clark returns to the court, she's not just coming back as a scorer. She's coming back as a commander. As someone who's been behind the curtain. Who understands the game from both sides now. Who's already seen what it takes to win in this league. And when you got a player like that, you build around her. You don't trade her. Stephanie White knows that. And after this interview, everyone else does too. So what's next? Caitlin Clark is coming back. Stronger, smarter, more prepared than ever. And when she does, the Indiana Fever won't just be a better team. They'll be a different team. One with identity. One with purpose. One that knows exactly who they're building around. And exactly where they're going. No drama. No tension. No trade. Just a generational player. And a coach who believes in her completely. So now it's your turn. What do you think? Did Stephanie White's comments shift your view of Caitlin Clark's impact? Do you think the rumors were just noise or part of a bigger media pattern surrounding Clark's career? And how big of a threat will the Fever be once Clark returns? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives, drama breakdowns, and the truth behind the headlines shaping women's basketball. Because this league is changing fast, and Caitlin Clark is right at the center of it. If that wasn't already clear from the praise, the passion, and precision of her words, it became undeniable the moment she compared Clark's leadership arc to names like Magic, Kobe, and Jordan. Not because of flash or flair, but because of focus. Let's be real. When a coach publicly draws a line between your injured rookie and the greatest to ever play the game, that's not coach speak. That's a blueprint. White was doing more than defending Clark from media speculation. She was building the narrative the WNBA needs right now. One where the future isn't just promising, it's anchored. One where Clark isn't just a standout rookie. She's a centerpiece for a franchise revival. Because here's the thing. When Caitlin Clark went down with injury, the noise ramped up. The doubters got louder. The critics suddenly saw an opportunity to rewrite the story. She's not a leader. She's just a shooter. She doesn't elevate the team. There's tension in the locker room. Maybe she'd be better on a team like the Aces. Stephanie White heard all of it and then obliterated it. She didn't dance around the controversy. She addressed it head-on. Clark is not just welcome in Indiana. She's crucial to everything the franchise is trying to build. And you know what? That silence from the front office before the statement, that wasn't avoidance. That was timing. Stephanie White waited for the right moment. The moment when Clark's absence had been felt. The moment when critics had overplayed their hand. The moment when the Fever, despite injuries, inconsistency, and all the outside noise, still showed signs of life, structure, growth. That's when White stepped in and told everyone, Caitlin Clark IS this team. She's the reason they're no longer invisible. The reason media trucks are outside. The reason ticket sales exploded. The reason fans are talking about the Fever like a contender, not a cautionary tale. And more importantly, she's the reason the culture has changed. According to White, Clark's voice isn't just welcome in the locker room. It's respected. She's not just learning, she's teaching. Breaking down plays, leading film sessions, helping players who've been in the league longer than she has. That doesn't come from popularity. That comes from preparation. And this injury? It wasn't a setback. It was an accelerator, a masterclass in high-level basketball from the sidelines. The kind of experience that turns great players into legends. Because while everyone else saw her on crutches, White saw something else, a student becoming a teacher. That's why the trade rumors weren't just wrong. They were laughable. The idea that the Fever would trade Clark, the most important asset in the league right now, to the Aces? Or anyone. White made it clear, not now, not ever. And that moment sent a shockwave through the league. Because behind all the chatter about fit usage and personality clashes, there was one thing missing. A leader willing to publicly say, we believe in her. We're building with her. She is the plan. And Stephanie White did exactly that. She didn't just back Clark. She doubled down on her. She made it clear that Indiana isn't chasing hype. They're building sustainability. And that sustainability starts with a player like Clark, one who shows up early, studies late, leads with consistency, and raises a standard just by being in the room. White's message was crystal clear. Indiana isn't going to be a stepping stone for stars. They're going to create them. And Clark? She's the first. Because this isn't just about a player. It's about a model. Clark is the prototype of what modern WNBA leadership looks like. Not just because she scores, but because she sees. Because she speaks. Because she makes everyone around her better, even while injured. That kind of influence, you don't trade it. You don't sideline it. You build around it. Stephanie White made that decision loud and clear. And in doing so, she challenged the rest of the league. The message? Stop questioning what Clark is. Start recognizing what she's becoming. Because while some are stuck debating her stats or overanalyzing her rookie mistakes, White is focused on a long game. She's watching her become the kind of player who doesn't just play within a system. She shapes it. That's why the Aces rumors felt so off. Not just because they were wrong, but because they completely misunderstood what Clark represents. She's not meant to blend into a super team. She's meant to lead one. And in Indiana, she's already doing that. The Fever might not be contenders yet, but that's not the point. The point is that the foundation is there. The culture is shifting. The players are responding. The fans are showing up. The league is taking notice. And it's all being driven by a player who's not even on the court right now. That's rare. That's power. That's what Stephanie White is protecting. She didn't just confirm that Clark is staying. She confirmed that Clark is the future. And if anyone was still doubting that, her words made one thing very clear. Caitlin Clark doesn't need to be anywhere else. Because Indiana isn't just where she plays. It's where she belongs. So what happens when she returns? Stephanie White hinted at it. Without hype, without theatrics, just facts. She's coming back sharper, more strategic, mentally stronger, with a deeper understanding of the game, her teammates, and what it takes to lead a franchise at this level. And when she steps back on that court, she's not coming back as a rookie with potential. She's coming back as a leader with purpose. So don't let the noise fool you. Clark's not transferring to a stack team. She's not leaving because of chemistry. She's not frustrated or flailing. She's studying. She's growing. She's waiting. And the moment she returns, everyone will remember why the Fever drafted her in the first place. Because she's not just part of the rebuild. She is the rebuild. And if Stephanie White's message to the league wasn't loud enough, let's say it one more time. Caitlin Clark is not going anywhere. Let's be honest. When Stephanie White shut down those rumors about Caitlin Clark leaving the Indiana Fever for the Las Vegas Aces, it wasn't just about correcting misinformation. It was a warning shot. To the media, to the doubters, to anyone still convinced that Clark is just passing through Indiana on her way to a real contender. Because if you've been paying attention, that narrative has been gaining traction. People looking at the Fever's record, the early season struggles, and Clark's growing stardom have started floating the same tired theory. She'd be better off on a team like Vegas. She needs a bigger market. She deserves to play with winners. Stephanie White heard all of it, and in one interview, she tore that narrative to shreds. Clark is not a rental. She's not a media asset. She's not being dangled in front of super teams for trade bait. She's the centerpiece, the pillar, the non-negotiable. And when White speaks, it's not performative. She doesn't say things for headlines. She says what needs to be said. And she says it with intention, because this moment was bigger than a trade rumor. It was about owning the direction of the franchise. White's message was clear. Caitlin Clark isn't just playing in Indiana. She's leading it, even while injured. And that's the part that keeps getting lost in the noise. Clark has been sidelined, sure, but she hasn't stepped back. Stephanie White made that point with conviction. She called Clark a second coach on the bench, someone who's reading defenses, giving feedback, leading discussions, mentoring teammates. Someone who, despite not being on the floor, is still one of the most impactful people in the room. That's not hype. That's not PR. That's presence. And that kind of presence doesn't get traded away. It gets protected. You don't build around a player like that only to ship her off when things get bumpy. You don't hand her the keys to the culture and then take them back midseason. And more importantly, you don't let the noise from outside drown out what's actually happening inside. Because inside that locker room, Clark has earned respect. Stephanie White went out of her way to say it. That there's trust. There's admiration. That the so-called tension people keep speculating about is nothing more than fan fiction. There's no power struggle. No chemistry issues. No passive-aggressive dynamics. What there is, a coach who believes in her player. And a player who's already stepping into the role of franchise leader. And let's be real, not every rookie gets that kind of backing. But Clark isn't just any rookie. From day one, she's handled more media pressure, more scrutiny, more responsibility than most veterans. And still, she shows up early, locked in, focused. That's not just professionalism, that's leadership. And Stephanie White sees it. She sees that Clark's greatness isn't just about her shot. It's about how she studies film, how she asks questions, how she listens, how she communicates, the maturity, the drive, the understanding that being the face of a franchise doesn't mean soaking up spotlight. It means setting the tone, and Clark sets the tone, even in street clothes. That's the part that wrecks the trade rumors entirely. Because if your injured player is still the team's emotional center, strategic mind, and locker room voice, why would you ever move her? The truth is, you wouldn't. And White didn't just dismiss the rumors. She obliterated them. She made it clear that Clark is not only staying, but growing. That her time off the court has been a masterclass in perspective. That she's not just getting healthier. She's getting smarter. So when she returns, it's not just about what she brings in points. It's about what she brings in vision. And the WNBA needs to prepare for that. Because this version of Caitlin Clark, the one that's been watching, learning, leading from the sidelines, is going to be even more dangerous when she's back in uniform. She's seen how defenses react. She's watched how teams prepare for her. She's felt the weight of being the focal point without being able to respond physically. Now, she's ready to come back with something to prove. Not just that she's healthy. Not just that she can still score. But that she can run a franchise. That she can take a team from struggling to stable. From overlooked to undeniable. And Stephanie White is putting her full weight behind that belief. Not just in what Clark will be, but in who she already is. Because the Caitlin Clark story isn't about a trade. It's not about hype. It's about foundation. And when your foundation is this strong, even through injury, adversity, and outside noise, you don't rebuild it. You build around it. So to the fans still holding out hope that Clark ends up on a super team like Vegas, Stephanie White just answered your wish list with a brick wall. She's not going anywhere. Because Indiana isn't just where she plays. It's where she's building. And when that kind of culture starts taking shape, the results follow. Maybe not overnight. Maybe not in a fairy tale rookie season. But over time, with Clark leading from the bench in the court, this team is headed somewhere. Somewhere real. Somewhere earned. Not bought. Not traded. Built. So if you were expecting a transfer headline, a shocking trade, a big market switch-up, forget it. Stephanie White just gave you the real story. Caitlin Clark is not only staying in Indiana, she's owning it. And when she's back, this entire conversation will feel laughable. Because she's not joining a super team. She's creating one. Now, what do you think? Was this the final word we needed from Stephanie White to shut the rumors down for good? Do you think Clark's injury has actually helped her grow as a leader? And are we underestimating just how dangerous she's going to be when she returns? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more coverage of the drama, leadership battles, and narrative twists that make the WNBA must-watch. From on-court rivalries to the coaching decisions changing the game. Because in this league, the future doesn't get traded. It gets built.